I got really good opportunities. Like I did the Formula One, I got to do Melbourne Fashion Week, I got to do like a video shoot. So it was all amazing jobs.
And what then led you to create your first business there?
While we were like 23, 24, we just moved away from our whole family, our whole friends, our whole life, and we're like, we're going to start a business. I do believe in business, like everything's about timing. Like you can have the best business in the world, but if the world's not ready for it, then it's not going to be successful.
A little bit of after these 2.5 years of acquisition, what are those 3 things that went right?
Having the founder resilience. Like there were just so many times we could have quit. And the reason I think we got to where we were is because we didn't. And we just kept going.
How did you spot your first few users?
So we spent a lot of time before we launched CLIQ, probably 3 or 4 months, speaking to universities, speaking to societies, speaking to students, building like an ambassador program, ready for when they go to university in September. I think probably after 3 months, we had 10,000 users.
Wow.
I think the first part of that is
Nicola Gunby, you are currently the co-founder of CLIQ, a social networking app that has reached more than 175,000 users across the UK, US, Germany, France are just some of the countries that I can name, with £0 spent on paid app marketing. Before CLIQ, you were also the founder of AMB Beauty, which now got acquired. Over and above, you are also the co-founder of your own female founder community called the Founder Series in the UK. So you've not only had one exit, you're currently managing another business and another community at that. So before we get to all of it, if you could please tell us who you are and what is your mission here.
Yeah, so I'm Nicola. I am the founder of CLIQ and I'm an entrepreneur at heart. So my passion really lies in how do we build businesses that help change the world and help change the way that people interact with the world. I think with my first business, I kind of fell into it. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I was a makeup artist and saw this massive need for something to build something to help myself and kind of fell into that business. Then I realized along the way how much I actually love growing businesses and how much I love doing things that make a difference in the world, whether it's to people or whether it's to, what was I going to say? Sorry, I've lost my train of thought. Make a difference in the world and make a difference to people. And that's exactly what CLIQ is now as well. And we've got this huge mission of how do we help to end loneliness.
That's really nice. So that's today, but probably let's rewind a little bit more about that mission. So I got a hint of you were a makeup artist at one point of time, but take us through back that journey a few years ago, probably a decade ago, when I assume you were in university that time. What was going on? How did you find your first business and how did it all start?
Yeah, my first business wasn't until I was 24. When I was early 20s, I just didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I was very lost. I feel like I look back and I realized how lost I was. You know, when you see all your friends and they feel like they've got everything figured out and they know exactly what they want to do and exactly what they're going to university for. I didn't have that. I didn't know what I wanted to do at all. I didn't even want to go to university. I ended up applying because I felt like, what else is there out there? You're never really given other options. It was either university or apprenticeship. I think it's different now. I think they do help you and tell you that there are different things out there and you don't need to go to university. But back then, if you weren't going to university, you're a bit of like a fraud and you didn't really know what you wanted to do with your life. So I applied and I got in, which actually shocked me. And I was like, right, okay, looks like I'm going then because all my friends were going.
So that was a good shock or a bad shock?
Yeah, it was a mixture of things. In my head, I was like, I might as well try it because what else have I got to lose? What else am I going to do? I went to Birmingham University and I studied a fashion course. I've always been creative, but I didn't really have like a skill or something that I really wanted to go into. I didn't even know if I wanted to go into fashion. I was just like, I know I'm creative. I want to do something creative. So let's go for that. And I went and I hated it from the very moment I literally stepped through those flat doors. I think university is one of the times in your life where you're like forced to live with people. You're forced to socialize with people. You're forced to be on a course with people. You're forced to learn. And for me, I didn't have the best experience with any of those things. It wasn't like I knew I could stick it out because I really enjoyed the course or I had great friends there or anything. There was like a piece missing in every single part of it. So I just knew deep down that as soon as I got there, I was like, I can't do this. I think I lasted 3 months and then I was called my mum and said, sorry, like I'm going to have to come home because I just don't feel happy here. And that was a big thing because all my friends were having the best time, and I'd go and visit people, or you'd see them on social media and they're like having the best time in Leeds and all these places, and they're going out and meeting loads of people. And I was just like pretty much sat in my flat on my own half the time and not actually enjoying the course either. So for me, there was no win-win for staying, and there was no point in sticking out for another 3 years. I was like, if I stay, I'm going to be deeply unhappy for the next 3 years, and that was just not worth it to me.
And what changed that, and what made you get the courage to leave and to take that decision that no, it's not working out? Because a lot of people, like you said, people stick it out. Just giving my example, in the culture that I grew up in the society, it is a given you're going to university. Forget about given. My parents would tell, no, you don't get to choose your career. You're either doing engineering, you're either becoming a doctor, or you're going into finance. These are the only career options that you have. So I was like, going to university or getting out of it is not an option. I have to do it. So how was it different to you, and how did you get away from that challenge that society would have put you otherwise? And what were you thinking when you left to do?
I think because I was so lost, I probably didn't really think about it. I remember going home afterwards and being like, shit, what have I done? Like, why have I done that? Was that the right decision? But for me, it was more the mental side of things. I just knew if I stayed there, I was going to be very unhappy, and that wouldn't benefit any part of my life. I think I've always been really good at knowing what I want and sticking by that. Even though when I was younger, I was quite shy, I feel like I always knew exactly what I wanted and was like, I'm going to go and do this if I knew it was right for me. And that was a period in my life where I didn't have any of that certainty. And the only certainty that I had was like, I know I didn't want to be there. So I was like, take myself out of the environment and then I can figure it out. But it was a very lonely time, because then you go back to live with your parents, all your friends are out having fun, and then you're like, okay, I've got to go get a job. And I was like, wow, I've traded this really fun lifestyle to literally sit behind a desk and not do anything. Like, I felt like I was trading one bad experience for another bad experience. But deep down, I knew that I needed to, again, get out of that situation. And my plan was to go traveling. So I said to my parents, like, I want to go traveling. I want to go to Thailand. I want to do these amazing things. They were like, absolutely not. Like, you're not doing that. It's not safe. And I was like, well, I'm going to go with Jason. We'd been together for probably like a year, 2 years.
And just to clarify, Jason is your partner today, but was also your partner then, right? Just for people who do not know you today.
Yes. So we've been together for about, God, so many years now, but we went to the same school. And my plan was get out, go traveling, convince Jason to come with me. So once he'd finished university, I was like, I can work for 2 years and save loads of money and use that to travel, like the perfect opportunity. And then I had something to work towards. So yeah, that was my plan basically.
So you moved from one area where the grass was green enough to another area where you thought the grass was greener, probably realized, no, this is not what I thought. But you stuck it out so that you can actually go to the place or that goal. Like you said, you were certain you wanted to get out. This was just a means to get there.
Yeah, exactly.
So 3 months in university, you decided it was not for you. You went into the receptionist job for a couple more months, decided to stay there. And then you went traveling. So tell us more about that experience now.
Yeah, so I do think traveling is one of the things that just like opens up your mind. I'd never really traveled as a kid. We'd always just stayed in Europe. We didn't really go anywhere that was outside of that. I just wanted to explore the rest of the world. And I knew there was so much more out there. And I'd see people going these amazing travel trips. And I was watching like travel bloggers. And there was like a real era of that where it was becoming really cool to go traveling, which I think when I look back, my parents probably said no, because when they were my age, they never had the opportunity. And they were like, oh, but you don't need to do that. Why would you need to do that? But for me, I just knew I needed to get out of that small town like mentality from where I lived. And yeah, we booked a one-way flight to Thailand and we ended up being away for 3 years, which was crazy. We didn't plan it at all. We thought we'd just be away for 3 months. We thought we'd do a bit of Southeast Asia and then we'd come back home. And then once we're out there, we're like, okay, we really like this. Why not stay? What are we going back for? None of us have any responsibilities. We didn't have a job. We didn't have anything like that. It was the perfect time to try something new. So yeah, we went to Australia. So we spent 2 years of that.
So from Thailand as a holiday to Australia as your destination for 3 years.
Yeah, to live. And we got a flat and we got jobs and all these really exciting things. It was like the first taste of independence, like living in this amazing city. We lived in Melbourne and we just loved it. And from that, I think that experience taught me that I suppose anything is possible. I would never have thought that I'd be living in Australia for 2 years. I just wouldn't have thought that was possible. And you meet all these people when you're traveling and you see all these people from these different walks of life that are doing amazing things. And you're like, wow, if they can do these things, like, why can't I follow my dreams? And I think it just took me out of that really small-minded mentality that I did have, where I was like, I'm probably not going to do anything. I don't know what my life holds. I dropped out of university. I don't have any skills. I don't have anything. Like, how am I going to find my passion, my purpose? To then going away and it opening my eyes and realizing that the potential is endless and you can kind of create your dream life.
So you mentioned at this point of time that going into Australia helped you get a new perspective of life because you're in a new environment, one, and two, you're surrounded by people who do not look like you necessarily and who do not speak the way you do. You're learning from them, you're getting inspired by them. You mentioned at this point that you got jobs. So there's something that's happened between today and then. What were the kind of jobs that you got and what then led you to create your first business there?
Yeah. First job was the one I got fired from. So I could have quit that.
So that's the job where you were a waitress and
Yes,
3 shifts.
that's where I was a waitress.
If no one gets the clips before when we were doing the icebreakers.
That's true. Yeah. So first job in Australia, got fired after 3 days because I'm definitely not waitress material. Very clumsy. Then I got an office job. So I got a receptionist job that was really well paid. So I was kind of like happy because I could finish that job at 5:00 and we could go and enjoy Melbourne. And I was getting a really good salary and it was just perfect for the time being. But then again, throughout that period, I had so much time to think because it wasn't a busy job again. I was like, what do I really want to do? Okay, I know I'm creative. Like I love makeup. Why don't I do makeup artistry? So my next job was in like their version of Sephora. So it's called Mecca and it's a store. And I'd have a weekend job there and I'd be doing like makeup back to back. So I'd be doing like 10 people's makeup in a day. It was intense.
Wow, you must have learned
Crazy.
a lot
Yes.
during that time.
But you learn so much, so many different faces and skin types and all these different things when you're doing 10 people a day. And then from that, I was like, okay, I can build a freelance career. Like maybe I could do this, but do it for myself and be charging X amount per appointment as opposed to getting an hourly wage. So I quit the office job and then I started doing freelance alongside working at the store. And I fell on my feet in terms of I got really good opportunities. Like I did the Formula One, I got to do Melbourne Fashion Week, I got to do like a video shoot and I got to do a TV series. It was all amazing jobs. And I realized there was no platforms that you could market yourself on. So I was spending loads of money on Instagram ads and I was putting myself on Gumtree, all these like random rogue platforms.
And probably you're burning more cash than you're getting in as a result.
Exactly, because you have to spend so much to like boost yourself and all these things. And so why is there not a platform that's just dedicated for beauty? Whereas a consumer, you go on there and you can be like, I need a nail tech, which I need a nail tech right now, reminded me. Or I need a makeup artist for this weekend, but you can book that independent freelancer. It's not a salon. They might come to you. It's their price. It's their reviews. And we realised that in Australia, no one was building anything like it. But also we realised in the UK, no one was really building anything like it. There was platforms like Treatwell and Fresher, all the big salon platforms, but no one was looking after freelancers. So one day, I don't actually know how it happened. Me and Jason was just sat there and I was talking about it and he was looking into it and we were like, there's nothing there. Let's do it ourselves. In that moment, I look back and I'm like, we must have just been so delusional. But I think delusion...
But you need to be a little delusional.
Because if we knew how hard it was to actually build a business, we probably wouldn't.
I think about it that you need to be a little naive in life.
Yeah.
And it's the naiveness that gets you anywhere. For me, just reflecting on the journey that you shared, but a totally different one, is 4 years ago when I moved to the UK, I'd never visited before, ever. And this was my first time experiencing living alone, just like you, how you travel the world. And I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to another country tomorrow. Little did I realize I'm not going to be with the people that I love. I'm not going to be with my family. I'm not going to be next to my friends who I can count on whenever I need support. This is a whole new country, a whole new continent, a whole new culture. And sometimes the naivety is what gets you to stand up. Sorry, continue.
No, it's so true. And I think naivety is such a blessing because it means that you can just dream so big and You don't have any limitations because you're like, oh, it's achievable. Why not? But looking back, I'm like, wow, we were like 23, 24. We just moved away from our whole family, our whole friends, our whole life. And we're like, we're going to start a business. Like, it's actually a bit bonkers. But I do believe being away from everyone that we knew was good for us because we didn't have the outside noise of like, oh, are you sure you should do that? Maybe you should go get a job. All of these things that happen when people first start businesses and their parents or their families and friends are a little bit skeptical. We didn't have that. So we could kind of like build in secret. Now building in public is like the most popular thing in the world. But I think if we were building in public back then, we probably wouldn't have done it.
Correct.
Whereas building in secret was like our little secret. I'd like be coming home from work and we'd be working on it. And we also...
It'd be in a bubble.
Exactly.
Because no one would see you fail.
Exactly. So all the little things that we did that we had no idea what we were doing. We were like Googling everything. Like AI wasn't a thing then. Now it's so easy to do a lot of things. And we live in a world where everything's so accessible. Then it was like listening to podcasts and reading books and just Googling like how to set up a business, how to do your tax, all of these things. You don't get taught them.
No.
So everything we've done so far has been us learning. We didn't have any tech experience, didn't have any business experience, but somehow in our delusional brains were like, we can build a tech company. Why not? And we did.
The thing that I'm hearing from you very clearly is that your business was literally born through a problem that you had.
Yeah.
And in my head, if I were to put a method to it, I think about the self-problem method is that the best business ideas are born out of the most frustrating problems.
Yes.
And I'm thinking through like, it needs to be a problem frustrating enough for you to do something about it, which you did. 2 is you want to have some form of resources, whether it's time or finance, which I understand you have the time and you're feeding your own finances into it.
Yeah.
To feed that further.
Yeah. And with the first business, we started with like £2,000. All we needed was a MacBook and someone to build us a website. That's literally all that we had. And I do think it's glamorized now to have to raise all these huge rounds of investment and do all of these things. But realistically, you can start a business with a small amount of money. You've just got to be really clever. And I think because we didn't know any different, we like held on to any money that we had and was like, well, why would we spend it when we can do it differently? Because we didn't have anyone telling us what to do. We're just figuring it out ourselves. And we knew we were coming back to the UK because the visas were getting quite difficult. So we're like, okay, perfect time. Like we come home with a business. We don't have a house, a mortgage, kids, anything. We don't have a job to go back to. It's the perfect time for us to be like, let's actually make a go of this. And came back home and everyone was like, you've gone insane. Like, you're actually mental. How do you think this is going to work? Like, you have no business experience. But for us, we just had that burning desire and we'd already spent those 6 months building it. In the back of our minds, we were like, we can't let that go to waste. So we need to give ourselves at least a 6 months living back in the UK actually to turn it into a business. And we did quite quickly.
So what happened then after you came back to the UK? Because I understand you then founded AMB Beauty in Australia.
Yes.
Which was a global e-commerce platform, which you then transferred when you moved to the UK.
Yes.
So help me fast forward that between year 0, between year 3, what happened?
Yeah, so when we came back to the UK, COVID hit, which was obviously so unexpected. But because we were quite early on in our business journey, it didn't really make that much of a difference. It gave us the time to actually figure out how do you build a business? And then after COVID was when the business really peaked. So before COVID, we weren't really making much money. It was very stagnant. We were just figuring stuff out. COVID hit, we could really plan and build for this next phase. After COVID, the industry took off because everyone went self-employed. People shut down their salons. Even people had like side hustles. So they'd have a corporate job where they'd be doing nails on the side to make more income or whatever it was. And we found that also on a customer level, people really wanted to support freelancers. There was this whole thing of like support local businesses, don't go to big chains, go to your local restaurant, book your local nail tech. Because now we have that base of we built the tech, we've done everything that we need to, ready for that. Even though we didn't know it was coming, I do believe in business, like everything's about timing. Like you can have the best business in the world, but if the world's not ready for it, then it's not going to be successful.
A little bit of luck along with that delusional flavor,
yeah,
right? Yeah,
exactly. And then we had it for about a year. We knew we'd got to a point where we needed some form of investment. We were looking for angel investment just to grow the platform, but we also knew we needed like advisors and mentors because it was just me and Jason building this business, still not really knowing what we're doing. We're like, okay, we need some expertise now. If we want to compete with these big dogs, like we need some people to come into the business to help us. But obviously, living in a small town where you don't know anyone, I didn't know anyone that had a business, didn't know anyone that ever invested or like had any money, didn't know anything about that world. So we had to learn it all ourselves. And it felt like with that business, we were constantly learning everything. But now I look back and I'm so glad I did, because it's made us so much better at what we do now, because we had to go through those really hard times of not knowing anyone and pushing. A lot of the connections I made were through LinkedIn. So I just knew like you can make a connection with anyone in the world through LinkedIn and you could jump on a call. And the investment world open at that time, I'd say. I think it's changed a lot now. I think back then people were more likely to invest on a bit of an idea, and they were more likely to not throw money at something, but they were like, okay, let's try it and see if it sticks. I think because the economy's in a different place now, it's a lot harder to get investment. Whereas I think at that period, it was hard, but I look back and it was a little bit easier as a time. And then Jason was basically going to quit because it was getting really tough, really tough. There was a lot going on. We knew we wanted to scale. We couldn't scale because we didn't have the capital. We spent all our savings. We had people in our ear being like, you sure you should have done that? What's your next step? And Jason was like, I just don't know if I can do it anymore. And I was like, let's give it another week. Like, give it another week and see what happens. In that next week, we had 3 offers. So 2 were angel investors, but then the third one was an acquisition. And for us, we didn't even know acquisition was possible. We got approached for a straight up acquisition within 2.5 years of having a business. Like, it was very unheard of. Like, I called my mum and she was like, are you sure this is real? Like, it doesn't seem like it would be real. But yeah, turns out it was. And we ended up getting a partial acquisition. And that meant that we could move to London. We'd have an office, we'd have a team, we'd have capital, we'd have resources. They are a beauty brand, so it was Revolution Beauty. So they had all the customers, all the marketing channels. They had millions and millions and millions of customers and followers and subscribers. So we could plug into that ecosystem really easily. And it meant that we didn't have to go through that growth journey. It kind of just took us a step up. So it was an absolute no-brainer. And again, timing. They'd just gone public like a couple of weeks before.
So they had the investments and the finances as well to back you up.
Exactly.
And the credibility to bring you on board.
Exactly. They were looking for something new. They didn't have a professional community. They only had their consumer community, where they knew that professionals are the ones that's buying the products on a weekly, monthly basis, but they hadn't tapped into that. And they also wanted to know data. So like, what makeup artist is in what area of the UK, what's her price point, what products is she buying, what services is she
So they were
charging.
buying the information and the platform all for the established base that you already created.
Exactly. So then we kind of went internally to build the business within their ecosystem. And we were still the founders of the business. We were still running it day to day, all of that. But we just had their wider support.
There are 4.5 million podcasts in the world, and only 8% of them are still going. I don't want to be that, and more importantly, I don't want you to miss what's coming. I want this show to give the space for conversation that aren't just useful for you, but for your friend who's about to get passed over for a promotion and won't understand why, for the sibling who's going to make their first big career move and is terrified, and for the partner who's going to want to take a leap one day but won't have anyone around them who's actually done it. In every episode between me and my guest, we won't wrap up until we've turned it into something you can walk away with and actually use. That is a promise I am making to you from day one. All I ask is one tap. Subscribe right now, because as this grows and as the guests get bigger and the conversations get deeper, I want you to have been there from the beginning, and I want you to be the person who says that they found this early. This show is going to make it, and I want you with me from day one. Hit subscribe and I will see you next time. So here is Nicola, who started off, quit university in 3 months, went, found a receptionist job, realized this is not for her, moved countries, took a venture out, a holiday, and then realized, you know what, there's a probable opportunity here after doing a few things in the beauty space to start the business. In 2.5 years, you got acquired. What, after these 2.5 years of acquisition, if I were to ask you 3 things, what are those 3 things that went right?
Having the founder resilience. Like, there were just so many times we could have quit. Like, so many. Like, 20, 30 times either of us could quit. And the reason I think we got to where we were is because we didn't. And we just kept going. And it felt like there was just something right deep inside us. We didn't know what it was, but we're just like, we have to see this out. We have to keep going. So I think what went right was our mindset and how we approached the business. I think what also went right was keeping it a lean team and not rushing to hire people, and just, even though we were like working every single hour of every single day, like we would literally wake up, laptop straight away until the minute we went to sleep every single day, 7 days a week, which I look back and yeah, we were probably very burnt out, but it meant that we could learn everything ourselves, understand what we wanted to do as founders, what our skill sets were, what we needed help with and what we needed support with and what we didn't. So I think keeping the team lean went really right. And then, oh gosh, this is such a good question. It's a bit of a backhanded one, but I think what went right was everyone saying no. So all the investors that did say no opened up doors and opened up room for the acquisition. If we'd have got a yes early on, 2-3 months into the process, we would never have explored that acquisition. So I think what also went right was being told no hundreds and hundreds of times.
And the luck in that.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing. That's a beautiful way to wrap up that side or that chapter of your journey. So what happened next? So suddenly you've been acquired, your company, and then you're in London now.
Yes.
You and your partner. What's going on in that space, and how did CLIQ get born from that?
So we stayed in the business for a year. We moved to London and we were working on the business still. And then we did the full acquisition at the end of that year. So it was like a partial acquisition, we're still working every single day on the business, and then did a full acquisition, and then had nothing to do. It was crazy because you've gone from working every single hour of every single day to then waking up in the morning and not having anything to do and feeling like you've completely lost your purpose and kind of having to revisit who you are again. It's like when you walk into a room or you go to an event and it's like, oh, hi, I'm Nicola, I'm the founder of XYZ. You don't have that anymore. And I go to these networking events because I wanted to expand my circle. And I had friends in London, but none of them were founders. So I was like, I want to meet some female founders. Would go to all these events in my spare time. And I'd be like, I'm Nicola, I've had a business, but I don't now. Like, it's really difficult to introduce yourself and you kind of lose your identity. And we were realizing it was actually so hard to meet people and to meet like-minded people. I probably went to an event Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, pretty much every single week in that period, and probably made 3 or 4 friends from it, which is amazing. But it was a numbers game of going to an event, speaking to 20 people, walking away and being like, oh, I didn't really click with anyone. And I just felt like all of the events that I was going to were really corporate and really stuffy. And I was thinking about, what do I enjoy doing? Okay, I enjoy going to fitness classes. I enjoy going for walks. I enjoy going to coffee shops. I just want to meet other people that would want to do similar things
and who like
to
the
me.
same.
They like the same things. And it's not like I had a crazy hobby that I'm looking to find people to meet for. It was just, I just want to meet people that I can do normal things with. And
live a normal life.
Yeah, exactly. But it felt like you had Facebook groups on one side, which are very outdated. And it's like you move to a new city, download Facebook, join all the Facebook groups. Really spammy, really outdated.
And then you have WhatsApp groups.
Then there's WhatsApp. Well, you've got to be invited into those WhatsApp groups. Then you've got to find them on other platforms to get into the WhatsApp group. Then you've got Bumble BFF. So you've got dating app style friendship apps where it's swiping through people based on how they look and then going for a one-on-one friend date, which can be really awkward.
And then you have to treat those as a date as well, because that can click and that can't click.
Exactly. And then it's like, oh, what if I don't like this person? What do I do? I'm going to have to not see them again. What's the weird relationship around that? I noticed there was nothing for communities. So like your book club, your run club, your walk club, whatever it was.
And back then communities weren't a thing as much. So you spotted that.
Yeah, there was a few. And I'm trying to think of the first community that I saw. It was probably a branded one. So you saw like Gymshark starting their run club, and you started like Nike starting their run club and things like that. And I think people saw that and aspired to it. And then I think there was a massive trend of, well, if Gymshark can do it, why can't we do it as people? Why can't we start our own run club? And obviously community's always been a thing. It's always been around. You look back and like our parents, like my parents met in the pub. Like they didn't know they were both going to the pub. And then you just have a conversation with someone and now they're happily married. Like you go to the church, you go to the community centre, you go to these local places. You wouldn't tell anyone you're going. It's not like you text your friends.
Now that I think about it, technically communities always existed before a phone existed.
Exactly.
For as long as we live.
Yeah. You just know that every Friday everyone's going to be at this one place at 5 p.m. and you just pop down and you just meet new people. Like we didn't have the social media that we have now, which has, I suppose, pros and cons to it. But we're not actively meeting people on social media. So we realized there was a massive gap in the market for a community-focused platform that helps people meet people in really authentic ways.
So it's not a social media platform, it's a social networking platform.
Exactly. There's like a huge difference between social media and social networking. Social media is media. It's us being on our phones, it's being addicted, it's scrolling and not realizing where the time's gone. It's watching those awful rubbish videos that you think, why am I watching this? I feel like it's brain rot. And then there's social networking, and social networking was Facebook and was platforms like Meetup, which are both 25 plus years old. But Facebook was probably the only network where you'd actually connect with people and chat with people. Whereas now we're just scrolling and consuming. So I think there's, massive misconception with what social media is and what social networking is. And I think people now want to go back to social networking and want less of the social media.
So that's how you started CLIQ. That was your problem statement, that you'd start in real life communities, starting from a platform being the first base.
Yes.
So today you're at 175,000 users, but I want to start with the journey of when you were probably at your 10 users. Number one, how did you spot your first few users? And number two, how did you compound that into 175,000 today?
Yeah, so we actually thought we might be a student app at the beginning. So when we sat down, was like, okay, community app, who has communities? We're like, societies, they have so many of them. Who's a really good target audience? Students, because they want to meet people. So we spent a lot of time before we launched CLIQ, probably 3 or 4 months, speaking to universities, speaking to societies, speaking to students, building like an ambassador program, ready for when they go to university in September. We missed the mark with the tech. As always, tech is just delayed. You can never put
especially when you're relying on people to build that tech and stack engineers.
You can never really put a date on a launch. I've realized that with tech or like a new feature, just never put a date on it because you just never know. And we actually missed Freshers Week by quite a lot. And then
how many weeks? Let's get specific.
3 weeks.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it was quite a while. And we couldn't really onboard anyone to the platform before it wasn't live until 3 weeks after Freshers Week. Everyone's already made their friends. Everyone's already like spoke to all the brands. They know like what they're doing. They didn't need a social app to meet people. So after about a week of trying to onboard all these users, I think we probably onboarded like 100. We were like, it's just not working. Let's scrap it. Let's pivot. What is working?
So how much time did you take to onboard that 100, just to quantify time or cost?
Probably about a week.
So let's say 5 working days into 8 hours. So you spent 40 hours to onboard 100 users.
Yes.
And that's not sustainable.
No, it's not at all. And these users were just downloading the app and not really doing anything. They weren't creating groups. They weren't doing anything. And then we're like, okay, what is trending? Like, what are the things that are going to drive us traction? And we were like, groups in cities. We saw that girls only walking groups and run groups were starting to pop up. So like, okay, let's follow that. Let's scrap the university thing. Let's just go for that. And I'm so glad that we did, because that has been our core. It's people in cities, people looking to meet people. It's 20s to 30s, female or male, people that just want to get out and meet people. It's not about the students, because when we had students that were still on the platform, they loved it because they could go to things outside the university. So we definitely found that the community side of things was so much stronger, and just doubled down on that. How our strategy worked and how it still works is get the community. So speak to the community, get them to love our platform. They come onto the platform and they bring their users with them. So I think probably after 3 months, we had 10,000 users.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because 3 months is 9 weeks.
You're good at maths.
9 weeks And 10,000 users.
Yes.
That's not bad.
Exactly.
In comparison to your 40 hours to 100 users.
Yes.
Because
5
then you're
days.
you're compounding
100
like
users.
20x,
Exactly.
right?
But it's compounding interest with that. It's like you got 100 users. They have an amazing experience. They all go away and tell one person. You could gain another 100 users.
I like the way you said that. You actually read my mind because I was just thinking about it does not scale like adverts do.
Yeah.
It compounds like you're earning interest.
Yeah.
And I'm hearing from you that your first 10 users, which in your case would have been the community founders,
Yeah.
determines your next 100 or
Yeah.
your next 1,000.
Yeah.
Right? And then you give attention to those first 10 users and they're going to make or break things for you.
Exactly. It's the one-to-many approach of you just need that one person to love you and they could bring 1,000 people with them. Like if someone shuts down their WhatsApp chat and they've got 300 people in there, that's 300 new users for us. And I think with community leaders are like influencers in their own right. So if you've got a run club and you've got 100 people in your run club and you're like, I'm moving to CLIQ. So even in the early days when things were going wrong, like features were breaking, like you couldn't buy a ticket, there was loads of stuff happening, the community leader was like, no, we trust them, guys, it's fine, like they're going to sort it out. And they were like becoming advocates for us and helping us to build this like community of community leaders. And we knew if we did that, we don't need to keep the users happy because those people are keeping the users happy for us.
They're kind of like your ambassadors,
Yeah.
right? And I'm reflecting back on my experience for someone who's listening to this, if they want to at all create their own tech platform in the future. I want to put a comparison through. Here's your platform that has scaled to 100,000 users in 9 weeks' time. So probably 45 working days versus a social media app in the Middle East when I was probably in 2018. So I was in university. There was a social media app that was founded by an ex-Microsoft person, and he was an engineer in Microsoft at that time. So he was founding his social media app. I'm not going to name that app, but probably he was thinking way ahead of his time. He was building a 3D social media app as if you are looking up down at the world map in 3D view, and you could see exactly what are the events happening in different locations in the world. And his strategy was employ ambassadors from universities who are going to be the champions for other people coming into the app. I joined as an ambassador purely because it was it was financially motivated,
Okay,
right? So
interesting.
every week that you would get users on board, I would get a commission out of it.
Yeah.
And then I remember thinking, oh my God, this is paying my night
Yeah.
outs or my entertainment days with my friends. And I was not thinking about what this app could do for me. I probably did not use it. I was more financially motivated
Yeah.
than I was motivated to use the app. So I think about the wrong way that they used ambassadorship, but I'm also thinking that if you're championing from the bottom to top, the people who get something out of using that app, then it's something more meaningful to them. And that's the multiplier effect.
Yeah.
These guys, the reason it did not work out for them, and I'm not sure whether this was the dynamic of the Middle East, whether it was too ahead of its time, because the app was breaking for them as well. I think it was that because these ambassadors were financially motivated, they just wanted their users to stick for X number of days. They get out of it, and then everyone else exits after a while, so that
Yeah.
no one's stuck.
Yeah, and I think we learned a lot from the first business of like build it like a marketplace as well, because you don't want to attract users and they download the app and there's nothing for them to join. It seems pointless. So it's build it as a marketplace, get the communities on there, get them bringing their people, but focus on community. The more community you have, the more value there is for someone to download it, but then the more community you have, the more users that you have.
So here is CLIQ, who's built in 2023. You got your first 100,000 users in 9 weeks' time, and then 10,000
Yeah.
users in 9 weeks' time, and then you scaled 17x today.
Yes.
And that's less than 3 years that you've hit.
Yes.
And as of recently, less than a week ago, you've already acquired your first your first community. And between that, you already have your first 7-figure investment. So take us through from getting your 10,000 to getting your first investment and now doing the acquisition, because probably people of your age and women of your age are just trying to get through the funding round.
Yeah, I think for us, as soon as we got that 10,000 users, we were like, okay, we know this is a really, really scalable business. I think with the world that we were playing and like the industry, like you'd speak to people and they're like, don't talk to me unless you've got 10,000 users. That seemed to be like a benchmark that everyone was going for. So as soon as we got that, we're like, okay, we've made it. Do you know what I mean? We can go on to the next level. And we raised a small round at the beginning, and that was just so that we could hire and scale. And then for a while, it was just 3 of us. So it was me, Jason, our first hire, Ella, who we hired 3 or 4 months into the business. So it was quite a big risk, but we just knew that we couldn't do it on our own.
And you needed hands on.
Exactly. The first business took every inch of our soul to build. It was like, we can't do that again. Like, it's just not sustainable. We need someone else. And she's still with us today, which is amazing. But yeah, for probably a year and a half, it was just us 3, just grinding. It was very much startup vibes. It was very much us working from our dining room table, just trying everything, seeing what sticks. And then the like pivotal moment for us, I think, was probably about a year ago. So we were like growing like this, organically, sustainably. We weren't spending any money. The users were doubling and doubling and doubling. Like, growth on growth was hitting amazing stats, but it wasn't like we got that like we did with the first business, that hockey stick. And it was probably about a year ago we got that hockey stick because creators started using us. So influencers are starting to see that community is something that's actually really valuable for their business.
Especially with the boom of the creator economy.
Exactly. They can have an additional revenue stream by having a community. They can get in person with their audience, which builds a better relationship with them as opposed to everything being so digital. And for a brand, if you're working with an influencer, but she also has a run club of 2,000 people, that's so valuable because that's direct access and direct audience. So we had some creators that joined the platform, and I believe that's what helped our growth massively, because once you got 1, you got 2, you got 3, you got 4, and they all trust you. And now we're very lucky that we've probably got 50, 60 amazing creators using the platform. Some have got millions of followers to build their community. But it was amazing because we didn't have to pay them. We were just providing them a tool and a solution and the support and the team that they needed at that moment in time when they're thinking about starting a community, but they don't know where to start and they're time poor. So I do believe that really helped. And since then, it's been like this. Like, the growth has just been amazing. It's crazy. Like, especially in London, I think we've made a really good name for ourselves, that you walk into rooms of people you don't know, and I'm like, I'm the founder of CLIQ, and they're like, oh, have your app on my phone, or oh my god, I went to an event last week and it was on CLIQ. Like, I met a friend through your app. Like, seeing and hearing those stories is the best. I'm like, we're actually making a difference. And even though it feels like we've scratched the surface with the amount of users that we have and all of that, like, there's so many people in the world, it feels like we're actually making such a difference.
Now that you exited your previous business and you're currently running CLIQ through its first 7-figure round and then doing an acquisition at the same time, what are you doing differently this time as Nicola?
Yes, building as many connections as possible. I look back with my first business, and the one thing that I wish I had was connections. And maybe in hindsight, I look back and I'm think, well, it probably made me work 10 times harder because I didn't have any connections. But now I'm very much in the mindset of your network is your net worth. And a lot of the things that happen, the investment, the brand partnerships, the really cool opportunities do come from people who you know and people that trust you. So I've been really strong on building my personal brand, showcasing my story, telling people the highs and lows of what it's like to run a business, but also really trying to build my network and expand that, because you get to different stages of the business where you need different things. Like when we went through our last round, we needed different investors than we needed from the first round. So in between that time, you've got to make new connections and you've got to make these warm leads so that you know that when you're getting to that round, you've got people that you can turn to, whether they're going to invest or whether it's going to be like, do you have an intro to this person or can you help me? Now we're thinking about that next stage, which is raising another round at some point. It probably won't be till next year, but already thinking now about how do I make those connections now that will make it so much easier when we get to that point, because there's nothing worse than getting to that point, being completely desperate, not having the right people to turn to and having to start from the ground up. So yeah, I think one of the things I've done differently is just really trying to build my personal brand and my network as I go.
Which has been my observation, because I have known you since August 24, since the Founder Series event that I attended for the photography headshots.
Oh yes,
with Sienna. And I've seen that this year, since the start, you've really took off with your personal brand on social media.
Yeah.
Which gets to my question. Anyone who's starting off in today's world, is it a make or break for them to build their personal brand whilst building their business? Or do you think they can get away the way that you did when you first started A&B Beauty?
Well, if you look at it, if you look at the traction that CLIQ's made compared to the traction that A&B Beauty's made, even though there was an acquisition with the first business, CLIQ is so much bigger. So much bigger, so much better, so many more people know about it. And it is due to building that personal brand. So I do think if you want to skyrocket your business and you want to get more customers, get more leads, whatever it is, in a really easy and cheap way, like social media is free. Organic content is free. You just got to put out quality content, and the more quality content that you put out, the more people that are going to see you, and you can realistically reach millions and millions of people if you do want to. So I do think it's a no-brainer. I think you can be clever with it as well. Like, you don't have to tell your whole life story, and you don't have to show people where you live, and you don't have to do all of those things. You can still do it and be private, but I think if you've got an interesting story to tell, then why not?
Fair. So it is going to be a cherry on top.
Yes.
Is the message.
It's like it gives you that extra boost. It helps you with your business. No matter what your business is, there's a story to tell. And there's people outside there that want to see that journey. And I also think, like, I want to look back in 50 years and look back and be like, oh, wow, this was so cool. I did this, I did that. It's like documenting it for yourself as well, which I regret not doing in the first business. Like, have no pictures or anything of like anything that we were doing. And I look back and I'm like, there was so many good memories there that I wish I could keep. And then you just end up forgetting about them. So it's also like a nice way for you to document it for yourself.
I call it Dear Public Diary.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a diary book that everyone can see.
Yeah, that's true. Nicola, there is a question that I have been dying to ask on behalf of the people listening to this. And I'm thinking about a female, a girl listening to this right now. She's in her 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. And she's doing her work and she's thinking she's doing a great job. She feels like there's something more that she can do. Mm-hmm. She has this idea in her head that I want to start this. This is something that will be so useful for me. And it does not necessarily need to be a 24-year-old. It can be my mother. My mother was having this conversation with me last week. She has this fire burning. She has this idea and she wants to go and pursue it. But she's concerned about the time. Mm-hmm. And she's concerned about her idea not being good enough. Mm-hmm. And in her head, she's like, I'm meant to do more than just be at my 9 to 5. Help us tangibly work through her problem. How can she start that business or that side hustle? What does she need to do tomorrow? And what does she need to do following from tomorrow to actually get on her feet? I keep hearing about Instagram motivational quotes. She might be hearing about that, but she's fed up of it. Okay. Yeah. So what would you help her with?
I think the first part of that is understanding if your idea is just one of those ideas where you think this would be amazing, or if it's an idea where you're like, this could really work. I think there's a difference of, is again that like glamorization of seeing things online and being like, oh, this will be a really glamorous lifestyle. Like, being a founder isn't the most glamorous lifestyle. It looks like it because I'm going to post being on this podcast and doing these cool things, but people don't see the work behind it. And I think one thing that you have to have if you're thinking about quitting your job is security. So do you have X amount of money behind you to be able to fall back? Or is it better to stay in the job and work on your business idea on the side? But you've got to really understand if that business idea is something that you want, or if it just is a nice to have because you feel like it's glamorized.
Step one. That's step one. Know whether it's something that you want to pursue.
Yeah, understanding. Looking at your personal circumstances, like, is it even possible?
Step two.
Have you got a partner that can support you? Are you paying a mortgage? Like, there's so many things, and the older that you get, the more responsibilities that you do have, and it makes it a lot more difficult. You can't just pack up and move or start that business tomorrow. Whereas when you're 20 years old, you kind of can. So I think looking at your personal circumstances as well and understanding if it is feasible for you and how you can make it feasible. Step three, like, you can start small. Like I said in the other point, you can start trialing things, that you don't have to go all in straight away, and understanding that you are on your own journey and that things take time.
And how would start small look like? Let's put this very tangibly and tactically.
an hour an evening. So you finish work at 5 p.m., you make dinner, you go to the gym, spend a bit of time with your partner. You've still got an hour. A lot of the time, we fill an hour by watching TV, scrolling on social media, or doing something very unproductive. Like, bank an hour every single night to work on that idea, whether it's research, whether it is, I don't know, product development, whether it's testing things, whether it's posting on social media, like whatever it is. Figure out the things that you need to do at the beginning to understand if it is a good business idea, and spend an hour a night. Maybe sacrifice a morning of your Saturday morning to do it. If you really want to do it, you will find the time. We have 24 hours in the day. Like, you can always find the time. I get a lot of people restricted with full-time jobs, but I think you can sacrifice an hour every single night if you believe in something.
Okay, so now let's say, so step 1, find the idea. Step 2, understand your financial and realistic circumstances. Step 3, find the time. Step 4, I understood from you, do your research and understand your market.
Yes.
And let's say now they've understood their market. What's next?
Go for it. If you've been through all those steps and you know you've got a security blanket behind you and you know that it's going to be a really successful business and there's a gap in the market and you've got that burning desire and you can't sleep at night because all you're thinking about your business, like, do it. What's the worst that can happen? If it doesn't work out in 6 months, you go get a job. That's why I always thought there's always a plan B out there somewhere. You're not employable, you're not unemployable. Like, there is something out there for you if it doesn't work out. So I think just go for it. You don't want to be 80 years old looking back and thinking, I wish I'd have tried. I'd rather try and fail than not try it all and regret it.
Which comes to my next step 6. Let's say that's 1 month from now and 3 months from now. What does success look like as part of their journey? Because for some people, maybe it's rampant, but for someone who's steadily going through that, what would success look like?
In 3 months, I don't think you can expect a lot of success. I think the first 6 months of building a business are the hardest because you're going against the grain. You're probably disrupting an industry and trying something new. You're also learning so much as a founder. So I think if you get to 3 months and feel like you haven't made much progress, I think don't be too hard on yourself. I think you need to try for at least 6 months fully in to see if it's going to work, because business takes time and not everything takes off. And if you don't have the capital or the connections or the resource, or you don't have an audience, you've got to build all of those things from the ground up. It's very different to seeing an influencer launch a product and it sells out straight away. That's not the reality of business unless you have an audience or you have traction or something already. So I think don't get disheartened. I think at least take it to 6 months and then make that decision.
And step 7, I will call it persevere.
Yes. Just keep going. Just keep going every single day, like baby steps. Just keep going. And I always think, like, what's the worst that can happen? Like, sometimes you think, what is the worst that could happen with this business? I think about the worst, and it's not that bad.
The worst is it doesn't happen. It doesn't work.
And it doesn't work, and you try something new.
Yeah.
Like, that's not the worst thing that could happen in the world. And I always think, like, we're not saving lives. If you're building a business that isn't saving lives, like, it isn't that deep. And I think we get too, like, caught up in that everything's stressful, everything's high pressure, especially if you live in a city like London, everything's go, go, go. Sometimes we just need to slow down and be like, it's not that deep. If it doesn't work out, we try something new.
We're getting to the next segment. And this is personally my favorite because this is going to stress and test you a little bit, but I promise not too much.
Okay.
It's called No Filters. So I'm going to give you a statement and you just have to say, agree, disagree, or it's complicated. And if it's complicated, you say why.
Okay.
Yeah? You ready?
Yes.
Most female founders get rejected not because their idea is bad, but because investors cannot picture a woman running a company at scale.
Agreed.
Why?
I've been in many, many situations where I've been massively underestimated. I think it depends. Obviously, I'm not saying all male investors are bad because they're not, but there are some out there that just can't understand, I suppose, why a woman would build a business. And I've definitely been around those
I've
type
seen
of
your
men and
social media
people.
post, and for everyone to know, people asking you, are you single?
Yes.
When are you going to have kids? I got that question in my corporate.
Yeah.
I was asked to make a plan with keeping that in mind.
Yeah.
So.
And this thing, it doesn't just happen in investment. It happens in a lot of these spaces. But yeah, I've had some horror stories. but I believe it kind of makes you stronger anyway.
Yes, resilient,
Yeah.
and know what to expect as a woman.
Exactly.
Building a business with your romantic partner is either the best decision you will ever make or the worst. There is no middle ground.
Agreed. I think it's a make or break. Luckily for us, it's a make and it's not a break.
You've been
But I
very
can
vocal
see-
about that.
Yeah, we've obviously known each other for so long. We've grown up together. We've been through all different walks of life together. So we really trust each other and really understand. Like, I know exactly what he's thinking. We never really disagree on anything. And I think we're quite lucky. And I think if you do have a partner that you could do that with, then why not? But I do also understand why it wouldn't work for some people and why some people don't want to go into it, because it does take a toll sometimes on your relationship, especially when things are stressful. When we're going through things like funding rounds and you're waking up every single day and you're like praying for a yes, and then you get that email and it's a no, and every single time it's that knock. When it's both of you that's getting that knock, it's very difficult because you do naturally need someone to bring each other up. And then someone's just got to be the bigger person and be like, look, I'm just going to have to be the positive one today, even though I'm not feeling it, because there's no point you both being down in the dumps. It just doesn't work.
Fair. Social media built CLIQ. Without it, the company does not exist.
Agree. I do agree. And I think for the type of business that we are building, social media has been crucial. And just building that audience and building people. It's like we've built a bit of a cult following, which I'm very grateful for. And we didn't really realize we were doing it at the beginning. But now we know we have those people on socials that will always be in our corner. And we're turning into one of those brands that's getting quite viral. Like you'll see on LinkedIn comments, people were like, oh, CLIQ, like loving what we're doing. And I'm very grateful for that. And I know I wouldn't have that without social media.
Fair. The loneliness epidemic is real, but a tech app is not the right solution to a human problem.
Oh, I think it's complicated because it depends what the tech app is.
And can do for you.
Yeah, we're building an app that is tech for good. It ultimately gets you off your phone, but you need the tech to do so. So you need the app to find the events, to do all of the things before you can get out from behind the phone. It's very difficult just to walk into the street and find things to do and find people, just because the society and the way that we live now. I do think you need that intro. There's plenty of apps out there that aren't going to help loneliness, even though they say they will, but hopefully we'll be one of the ones that will.
And lastly, dropping out of university was the best thing that happened to you.
Yes, one of the best things. Definitely. I look back and obviously you would never be where you are today if you didn't make the decisions that you had in life. And I look back and sometimes I'm like, if I stayed at university, would I have built CLIQ? Who knows? But then I do look at CLIQ and I wish I had it at so many points in my life. So when I was in university, I didn't have any friends. CLIQ would have helped that. I moved to Australia without don't know anyone. CLIQ would have helped that. I then moved back to my hometown where I felt a bit lost again because I had a business and no one else did. CLIQ could have helped with that. Then moving to London. So I look back and maybe CLIQ was the thing that I was always supposed to build.
And hence your problem.
Yeah,
your,
exactly.
Your business idea came out of the problem you were most frustrated about.
Exactly.
Nicola, this has been wonderful. I think I personally resonate with the journey you've been because I feel like I've been a part of it in so many ways because of being a member of CLIQ and having been to many events where we have spoken, had some great conversations. I have taken so much out of it, out of today, out of the many times that we've interacted together. But for someone listening to this, I want to ask the most important question of today to you. And for that 20-year-old who's listening in to your story, who's really deeply passionate and does not know where to start, what is the message that you'll give to them?
Start small. I always say start small. You don't need to go and quit your job tomorrow and start a business. You don't have to put all your savings into something. You can start small and test things. And I think whilst you're young, wear all of the hats. There's that saying, isn't there, where it's in your 20s, your life is a dressing room. Because you go in and try on as many outfits as possible to figure out who you are. And I think that's so true. I think the younger that you are, the easier it is to try new things and start small, test things, see what works and see what sticks, and then follow whatever that is.
That has been a life message that something I have been following by in a lot of ways. I think you just said that out loud. And I think a lot of people think about what's going to happen 10 steps later when you should just be thinking about, okay, how do I do this tomorrow and get through that? The most vulnerable part of your journey that I really liked and packaging it up, which I want people to take away, is that you don't need to know everything.
No, you don't.
And social media is there. People are there around you online. The internet is there for you if you don't want to ask that question, and if you're fearing what might other people think, and then you can go from there. I like to summarize our conversation so that someone can get the most out of it, just as a concluding statement. And tell me if I've got any of this wrong, but I was taking a few notes and hopefully I got a few things, and please feel free to add in. The first thing, you need a little bit of delusional in your life, if dare say not a lot of it, a little bit of luck and the timing for it to go right in a lot of ways, and hard work. The best business idea is probably the one that is the most frustrating problem that you have today. And it just takes courage to go and pursue that, and a lot of conversations. Something that you spoke about, you do not need to feel ready. You just need to start. Readiness will come as and when it comes. And lastly there is a difference between feedback and noise. I heard from you in a lot of places that you learn from mentors, you learn from coaches, depending on the stage of your journey. But when you came into London, for example, there were people who were telling you, are you crazy? You've never run a business before. So that to me is noise. But your mentors and your coaches and people who actually funded your idea is the feedback. So how do you bounce back the noise, but how do you take through the feedback if you were that circle in? So these are my 4 key takeaways, but is there something else that you want to wrap up this conversation with?
Oh, I think you've summed it up perfectly. I think no business journey is linear, and I think that's okay. I think there's a lot of comparison out there, and the beauty of social media is that you can reach all of those people, but then there's also the negative of you are constantly comparing yourself to every other entrepreneur or whatever it is in the world. And I think you've just got to stay in your own lane, because not every business story is the same. And just because all of these things happen to my business doesn't mean that it'll happen to someone else's. And I think you've got to be so open to that journey and learning through every part of it as well.
And not letting the world get to you,
Yes.
because the world can really get to you, especially social media.
Yes, very true.
Nicola, thank you so much. This has been a pleasure. Where can people find you when they want to know more about you and CLIQ?
Yeah, so on socials, we are Find Your CLIQ, and you can download CLIQ on App Store and Google Play. And then my personal socials are just Nicola Gunby.
Perfect. Thank you, Nicola.
Thank you.
And we'll see everyone in the next episode.